Good morning and welcome to the Celsius Talk, Retrofitting District Heating and Cooling, how to develop the right and successful action plans. My name is Emilia Pisani, and I will be introducing the Celsius Initiative before we move on to the real reason why everybody is here today. The Celsius Initiative is a European project that lives on. It started in 2013 under the 7th Framework Program. And at the end of the 4 years of the program in 2017, we'd managed to gather a network of cities and a base of information on a wiki that was too good to let go. So we decided to continue with our purpose, which is to accelerate the energy transition through the deployment of smart and sustainable heating solutions in cities. So here, really, our keywords are heating, cooling, and cities. And we do this. We're a demand-driven collaboration hub, and this is how we've evolved from a project. What we try to do is gather knowledge through newsletter, webinars like we have today, workshops, and the Celsius Toolbox. And this is very important for us because, for example, as the Keep Warm and Upgrade DH projects have solutions, concrete solutions on the ground, we want to facilitate that. We don't want people to reinvent the wheel. We want to facilitate cities' access to that existing knowledge, and for these European projects to really have the greatest impact possible. To do so, we have these webinars, but we also provide hands-on support for cities. We do this through our foreigner groups. I'll go more into that in a minute. And we continue to work very closely with the European Commission by trying to influence European policy through position papers. We're working on a manifesto. So if there's cities out there and you'd like to write a wish list for the Commission of things you'd like to see, policies you'd like to see put in place, how to influence the Green Deal, please contact us because we're trying to gather the city's voices together and together be as one, a stronger, more influential voice, just as a communication channel from the cities to the Commission. And we also support innovation, replication, and scaling because there are already plenty of very innovative, very impactful solutions being developed, then they should get the attention they deserve to really be able to have an impact. What we do in the forerunner groups, we try to work as sounding board for cities to co-creation. We do this through a co-creation process with cities and for cities based on peer-to-peer support. So Jackie, maybe you can go into a little bit about this in a minute, but we gather cities around a common theme, a common challenge, and let them together discuss challenges they have together, following one spearhead city at a time. We support them to plan, implement sustainable heating and cooling solutions adapted to their needs. And this is really important for us, is we don't come with a solution, ready-made solution, but we try and understand what the needs are and how we can adapt to them. We try to not only look at the technical part, because that's usually the easy part, but also look at stakeholder engagement, policies, financing, all these other more subtle things that are harder to grasp and to address. And together, we try to do this. So we have a group that's focusing on getting started. So for those cities who don't have any networks, or very small networks, and really would like to start with the best and learn from the mistakes of almost centuries, almost 100 years now that things have been put in place in certain countries around Europe, and learn from those mistakes and from that progress. Fossil free, this one is for cities who have a network, but are heavily reliant on fossil fuels. So those, we look at how to integrate waste heat recuperation, renewables, and so on. Residual heat, this one focuses on recuperating waste heat from urban sites. So it's oftentimes low temperature heat recovery, which gives more balance and allows the system to be more efficient, is very tightly connected to those who want to diminish the temperature in their systems. And last but not least, we have a group on cooling. So getting started on a district cooling or improving a district cooling network. If you would like to have more information about Celsius, please contact Celsius at johannaberrysciencepark.com, or simply send me your email right now in the chat and I'll send you more information. So thank you very much. And without further ado, let's look at how a multi-governance approach to developing action plans can support cities in retrofitting their district heating and cooling systems. So I leave you with the wonderful Julia. And so thank you very much for your attention on my part so far.
Thank you very much, Emilia, and welcome everyone. My name is Giulia Fornione, and I'm a policy officer at Euroheat and Power, which is the association representing district heating and cooling in Europe and internationally. Today, we're here to talk about how to support the uptake of district heating in Europe, particularly by developing successful action plans, which include policy recommendations to national governments and local authorities on how to approach the retrofitting of district heating networks. We will learn from concrete examples coming from two different European projects, such as Upgrade the Age and Keep Warm. The Upgrade the Age project aims to develop national action plans for the retrofitting of inefficient networks in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Denmark, Germany, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, and the Netherlands. Whether the Keep Warm project focuses on the retrofitting of district heating network in Central and Eastern European countries such as Austria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Latvia, Serbia, Slovenia, and the Ukraine. So these two projects together, as you can see, cover a large amount of European countries and provides a very comprehensive assessment of the challenges and the opportunities faced in the different regions. Today, we will have the chance to hear from representatives who have been directly involved in this project, such as Werner Lutsch from the AGEWE, who will tell us about the German action plans developed as part of the Upgrade the Age project, and Juri Hizmet from the Josef Stefan Institute in Slovenia, who will provide an overview of the Keep Warm project results. On top of that, we will also have the opportunity to hear from Jackie Hullin from the city of Strasbourg, who will bring in the local perspective to the debate. So our speakers will analyze the expected legislative challenges stemming from the retrofitting of district heating, and will recommend solutions to successfully overcome them. So now let me welcome the speakers. Please turn on your camera if you haven't already. And welcome. So the webinar will start as follows. We will have a 5-minute presentation from each of the speakers, during which they will present their analysis. And then we will open the discussion to you. And we want the discussion to be as interactive as possible. So please, as Emilia mentioned at the beginning, feel free to leave your comments and your question in the Q&A box, which you find at the bottom of your screen. And feel free to do it as you want, whenever you want. We will collect the question, and hopefully we will have enough time to go through them. So now let's start with Werner. Welcome again, and the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, and first of all, I cannot see my presentation. Maybe you could please, put it on. Thank you. Well, actually, where do I come from? Maybe we can take the next one from AGFW, the German Energy Efficiency Association for District Heating, Cooling, and CHP. Maybe, or most of you should know us, what we are. Next slide, please, and who we are. Well, since now 50 years, we bring in our experience in the field of district heating and cooling and combined heat and power at national and international levels. We have round about 550 district energy companies, consultants, operators, and so on in our institute. We represent round about or close to 100% of the heat load connected to German district heating systems, but also we represent also part of Austrian and Switzerland and Estonian and Lithuanian district heating companies. And well, our target, we come from the technical side. So the technical self-administration of the sector as the foundation of and basics of lobbying activities. So where we want to focus is technical aspects and economic development of the entire heat and cold process chain. So we start with generation, storage, distribution, customer, and so on. So maybe we can go to the next slide, please. Well, what are the main barriers for the implementation of sustainable energy policies and retrofitting of district heating networks in your country? Well, I would say, well, we want to decarbonize the energy systems in the shortest possible time and with practicable and available solutions. And I think, well, I'm now since more than 15 years in this branch, and at the moment, I would say the highest barrier for practicable solutions at the moment is the national and European policy. There are too many laws, rules, regulations, changing all the time, coming from different sides and blocking the companies in doing something or building something. Because if we start with a project today and we know that this project will end in 5 years or in 7 years, during this 5 or 7 years, we will find out that the whole law has changed and everything has changed. So we think we have too many lawyers, politicians, and those just talking, and not enough technicians and engineers, because retrofitting and developing district heating is up to 90% a technical business and technical work. And therefore we need our technical codes and standards of practice for district heating process chain as state-of-the-art technology. Maybe you can take the next slide, please. And here you have just, or we look into our codes of practice. We are talking about district heating in general, about heat metering and billing, heat generation, distribution, customer installation, qualification requirements, and operational safety and security. What we want to do with these codes of practice is standardizing the minimum requirements of the sector. And this means user-controlled update of state-of-the-art, the conservation of technical autonomy within the sector, but also creation of a transparent basics for competition. And we say these modules are standardization as an extension for the basis of standardization. So our codes of practice are the basics which we use if we are talking about district heating and cooling in Germany. And next slide, please. What are incentives to incentives do already exist, or the subsidy programs at the moment? On one hand, as I said, there is, I would say, too much of policy, because if you look at the framework in the EU, then we start with the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, the Emission Trading System, state aid for environmental protection, Green Deal, and so on. We go then into our rules and our incentive programs also inside of Germany, where we have the CHP Act with the sub-program for innovative CHP, then another sub-program of heat and cold storage, and another sub-program on heat and cold grids. and market incentive programs and district heating networks 4.0, called Wärmenetze 4.0 in German. Well, but what I have to say is we have to take off the training wheels and get started. We are just talking and doing new frameworks and new politics, but this is not enough. To change something in this field is get started, get building district heating and or changing building district heating, changing from, let's say, 140 degrees to 100 degrees of in the temperature and so on. So we have to change a little bit our thinking, not just thinking in political things or laws, but also thinking in techniques, in codes of practice. Next slide, please. Yeah, and then we try to talk to, however, to policymakers, because therefore we have to tell them that we can do a lot of things if they just let us do it. And therefore we did a lot of studies. Our AGFE, Department of Energy, Industry and Politics, is there. Specialists, special events on political topics with members of the German Bundestags. We have statements on current political discussions and proposals. As you can see on the slide, we have done a lot of studies also for AGFW to show them that we have to get, as I said, the training wheels off and get started. And on the other side, general public, we have our website, and we have not just a website for AGFW, but also for district heating with the cat you see here in front. So that's what I like to, or I have to say. And last not least, our best choice is district heating at the moment, because it's clean and it helps to save CO2 for a better environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Werner. Indeed, you're completely right. And the Green Deal, the EU Green Deal, also has acknowledged the important role played by district heating in the energy transition. So I'm sure you will have lots of questions regarding your presentation, but before we move to that, Jure, if you can please turn on your camera, it's your turn to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia, and thanks to all participants. And yes, I would like to continue in a bit different way as Mr. Werner. So actually, first of all, I would like to present the KEEP-Warm project, which was actually also intended to help or to assist to improve the performance of district heating systems focused on Central and Eastern Europe. So next slide, please. The idea behind was the realistic situation actually in this part of Europe. It is well known that district heating systems were a kind of standard in, let's say, former times in this part of Europe. So it was one of the good, let's say, or the standard solutions. But through the years, many systems did not put any effort in development or adjustment to new situation. And for this reason, a lot of challenges arise for most of systems in this part of Europe. So the partnership of this project, the KEEP Warm, was established by 11 partners from 8 countries. There were 7 so-called pilot countries. So Germany was the coordinator of the project. The other countries were intended to offer certain pilot sites, which will serve as a kind of, let's say, place where to test approaches which were developed through the project. So there were many challenges, and there are many challenges for district heating systems in Europe. Probably not only in Central or Eastern Europe, but in many other places as well. So there are, let's say, high transmission losses, so the dominance of fossil fuels, poor maintenance, lack of investment. So, but among all those technical issues, also policy support is not effective, let's say. And we wanted to establish, let's say, some reasons why this is so, and what actually is what are the main barriers for those problems. One of the starting points was the evaluation of the framework and the background for the operation of those systems in those countries, in 7 pilot countries. And the idea behind was, let's say, to first of all focus on district heating systems as such, so to those who offer the service to clients. So how to empower them and provide them certain tools, let's say, to be more competent, to be more aware, and to have abilities really to put the quality of service to a higher level. So the approach was actually designed through several, or let's say 5 phases. There were, so the main pillars were training and capacity building in many areas. So not just technical, but also business, how to provide, let's say, to tackle managerial issues and so on. The next was to help develop business plans and improve, so to improve the operations, daily operations. Then, of course, to mobilize funding, so to help systems or operators, utilities, to find appropriate funds. Then, of course, as mentioned at the beginning, some demo cases have been established, so to see how this approach can be implemented and to see if it's working. And the final phase, of course, was to integrate certain solutions and provide guidance also for policymakers, because without, let's say, strategic background, good strategic background and good plans, this is very difficult, of course, to, or it's impossible actually to make a kind of, let's say, progress in a longer term. Next slide, please. So just maybe to give you an overview of how much different situation is across those 7 pilot countries. On the left side, we can see, let's say, the shares of district heating, and so the sources of the fuels in district heating systems. And we can see that only, let's say, 2 or 3 have shares of renewables which can be actually observed. That's Austria, for example, Latvia, and partly Slovenia, but the majority of others, or actually almost all, are still based on fossil fuels. In some systems, we can see that, or in some countries, we can see that it's actually pure fossil fuel-based, so district heating system. Also, the share of households which are served by district heating systems are very, very different. So, for example, Slovenia has only 9% of households which are served by district heating systems, and up to 80% in Latvia. So we see that there are very different situations across those countries. And we wanted to establish what are the main barriers for retrofitting. And we found out that in a number of countries, so those barriers are actually very similar or have the same roots, and that are so the problem with technical capacity, so how to develop projects, how to implement, how to improve systems, then financial and economic barriers. This was probably expected because this is one of the key problems which we found out that is observed through all those countries. And one of the critical is also how policies influence the development of district heating systems, and so making them more competitive on the market. Next slide, please. So in order to establish, let's say, what can drive, let's say, progress in all those systems, we established we wanted to see which stakeholders have the major impact on the progress. And we found out, of course, that there are several stakeholders which have real important impact, but the most important is to note that the cooperation among those stakeholders is very important, and how to connect different levels of cooperation. That means countries set their goals for renewables, for improvement of energy efficiency, but heating is very local service actually. And now there is a challenge how to gather, let's say, effort which is provided locally and support national goals, and vice versa, how, let's say, national goals can be set in connection with local authorities, so that they really support each other in coming to the best goals. So, and the aim of the Keep Warm project was also to establish or to make a kind of retrofitting action plans, which were provided in the, let's say, specific form for each participating country. And for example, I would just like to highlight that some of those action plans will be integrated also in national plans, which are under preparation. For example, in Slovenia, there is currently a heating and cooling strategy and action plan under preparation. And the results of these projects will be integrated also in this very important document. So I am, this is just for the introduction. I'm really happy that we can have possibility to discuss certain issues regarding this. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Yuri, for this very exhaustive overview, and most of all stressing the important link between national and local policy interaction. And it's now the turn of Jackie, who indeed will bring in the local perspective to the debate. So welcome, Jackie. If you could please turn on your, okay, I can see you. It's your turn, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Jackie. I work in district heating and cooling at the city and the urban area of Strasbourg. You can go, I've got my details there if anyone wants to contact me, and you can go to the next slide. So Strasbourg is in the northeast of France, so we're moving away from oceanic climate into a more Central European climate. It's a city of nearly 300,000 people, and the urban area is closer to 500,000 people. And as you can see, we're right on the border with Germany. So the Rhine is at our on the side of the city of Strasbourg. So I think what's interesting is, as with many cities, is heat is a huge part of our energy usage in Strasbourg. As you can see, it's over a third of our energy usage. So you can go right on to the next slide. And this is a figure that we were able to confirm through our energy and climate plans. So as many national guidelines and many cities are doing currently or have done over the last few years, we started by doing our climate and energy action plan for 2030. So this is a requirement in France that all cities and territories work towards making this action plan. So we have ours. It was validated a couple of years ago, and we set our goal at 40% renewable energy in 2030. However, what seemed absolutely necessary to us is that really, to go towards a climate neutral goal in 2050, we need to start working now on the long-term strategy. So we worked to create an energy master plan for 2050, and this was a voluntary strategy, so it's not part of any requirements, but and the strong political commitment across all political spectrums in the city. This was approved in 2017 and re-voted in 2019. And our goal is to be 100% renewable energy across Strasbourg in 2050. Next slide, please. So I think that for district heating and cooling, but for all energy plans, it's so important to start with the current state of affairs in the city with regards to energy. So that's what we started with. So this is here in particular is our energy usage with the highlight on our renewable energy usage. So we can see that currently we're only at around 30% of 14% of our renewable energy use across Strasbourg, and we need to bring that up to 100% in 2050. So by hugely increasing our local production, by finding sustainable ways to import renewable energy, and also by massively reducing our energy demand. And I think that this is a pretty standard schema that will be seen across most cities in Europe. So next slide, please. And so to get straight to the subject, which is the most interesting is for us here today, of course, is district heating. Strasbourg has a strong historical district heating in the city centre in the most densely built areas. So it seemed absolutely necessary for us to decarbonise this district heating system. And also we're very much convinced that district heating is an excellent way of distributing decarbonised heat to as many people as possible. Especially in areas like city centres like Strasbourg across Europe, and Strasbourg has a very densely built areas from the 18th and 19th century in particular. And so what we have here in red is our existing district heating areas, and in blue is our zones that we've already identified mostly through our energy and climate plan, zones with a specific urban density and also with some high temperature heat recovery options. So where we think it will be interesting to develop district heating over the next 10 years. And so through our energy and climate plan, we were able to identify strong energy goals for district heating, in particular for 2050. So by the time we'll be 100% renewable energy through the district heating networks, will also increase by 3 the total heat distributed through the district heating and cooling. And this would be a mix of different energies with as much as possible, zero emissions through this, and zero contribution to air pollution, which is an issue here in Strasbourg. So we would hopefully have about a quarter biomass, and then the rest would be zero emissions, so geothermal, heat pumps, and waste heat recovery. So, and that's coming from around 30% renewable energy today across our networks. So we've got these very clear energy goals for district heating in 2050. And if you move on to the next slide, these energy goals and climate goals have to be achieved through really retrofitting and developing our district heating networks. So as I put here on the right, we have our next step, which is developing a master plan for our district heating, but also our energy networks, our gas and electricity networks. And we're currently working on that, and the goal is for it to be operational from around 2022 to 2030. So this will be a very operational retrofitting plan. So where we are currently is after working on our energy and climate plans and doing having a real look at our existing networks and how we need to update them. We have already identified some goals and some challenges. So the first one is to reduce the operating temperatures, in particular for them to be compatible with renewable energies coming forward. So today we're around a max of 140 degrees on all of our networks, and we'd like to bring that down as much as possible, perhaps to around 105, which is still in consideration. And one, of course, of the challenges of this is in the short term is the pipe sizes and how we need to work on utilities in quite busy streets. We need to continue to retrofit the pipes and equipment. A lot of our pipes in our plant are from the 70s, so it's a long work job. Keep at them, keeping them up to date, keeping them fit for use, and we need to do all of that with in mind compatibility with future projects, because it's always a terrible shame to replace or update some plant and then miss an opportunity a year or two later for an extension or for a new building or a new area that could have been added. A big issue is to continue to integrate renewable energy into the mix of our networks. So as I said before, our renewable energy is always going to be from multiple sources, which implies different operating temperatures. In particular, we have some high temperatures from industry and some much lower temperatures from smaller operators, which means different also timelines and different contracting options with these different energy sources. And this is an issue that we're working on with Celsius in one of the forerunner groups from waste heat recovery, in particular working on those low temperature heat recovery to see how we can fit them into the mix, because we do need every percentage of renewable energy that we can get. And then finally, the interconnection of existing and future networks, because it seems important to us that to mutualize as much as possible between the existing and the future networks to further optimization. And that means for us different contracts with different concessions for operators, and then the various timelines, various actors and operators, and the challenges that go with that. So that's my presentation. We absolutely don't have everything finished and everything figured out in Strasbourg, but we are working on it. And we hope to have a very concrete action plan soon thanks to our energy networks master plan.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Very interesting presentation. And I would say now, to given also the time, let's open for Q&A. And please don't forget to write your question in the Q&A box, which you find at the bottom of your screen. I have a question first for Jure and Werner. You both identified that policy is a barrier in the uptake in the development of district heating networks. So I wanted to ask you, with the EU Green Deal and all the opportunity that it brings along, how, and also based on your experience within these two European projects, how do you see overcoming this barrier, and where do you see opportunities also? I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, I can start. Actually, I would say if we could learn also in politics that laws and rules and regulations have to be implemented for minimum 7 to 10 years and not changing every year or half a year or something like that, then we can make plans and can change something. If we continue like we did it now the last, let's say, 10 years, then we have no possibility to change so fast. Because if you have a law which starts today and next year it will change again, and we start today with building something, we will not be finished until next year. So uh, I have to say we need a longer term to do our business in a right way.
Thank you, Werner.
I would say that without clear goals and also clear path how to come to that, let's say how to reach those goals, I think it's very difficult to make really a good progress in a very short term. For example, the experience from the KeepWarm projects shows that there are very so the policy background and the strategic perspective is not well defined, or actually is missing in most of those countries. And from this perspective, the majority or all actually utilities, they of course do actions like they see that it's needed to approach. So at the end, it's very difficult to expect that progress will be quick, will be goal oriented, and also that the impact in a short term, let's say until 2030, or on a longer term until 2050, the full decarbonization, I think it's not achievable just if we leave the progress and the transformation to district heating systems. For example, in Slovenia, it's very clear that some systems are they really look from a very progressive point of view. But most of them, they are just waiting and they do their business as usual. And it is not expected that without clear strategies and of course with other instruments which are needed to support them, will not be possible, of course, to meet those goals.
Okay, clear enough. Thank you both. I now have a question for Jackie. I would like to hear from you, because obviously what you presented from the city of Strasbourg, the example you brought, is very interesting, but it's again like a local initiative, and I would like to know from you, what's the link between local and national? And is it like the uptake of district heating, in your opinion? So what's the link between what's coming from the national government and the local authorities? So if you can, and what are maybe the challenges you're facing on that? Thank you.
Well, we have a lot of links with the National Energy Agency, which is called the ADEME in France, and they would be our strongest connection with the national guidelines. So, as I said, we need our up-to-date district heating master plan, and they expect us to have a very clear plan for where we want to go over the next 10 years, and then this would be a baseboard for financing opportunities, for national financing for various projects. I hope I'm not speaking incorrectly when I say that for district heating, a lot of the national networks is more like working groups, where we work together and we share best practices and things like that. And there isn't there isn't a huge influence on national policy. Doesn't have a very huge influence. It's very much locally operated, the district heating. We do of course have technical rules and regulations to respect, but policy wise it's more I think up to the local cities, where we have this obligation to have our energy plan, and then we put it in place through our district heating.
Thank you, Jackie. I now see that we are receiving questions from the public, so I will try to read them all, or at least try. So one question is, would be about the role of private, with public finance, EU national and local being limited, is there good practice you can share from the two projects about mobilization of private finance to retrofit existing district heating system, including blended finance instrument? I don't know, maybe Jure or Werner wants to go.
So in our project, there were, as I noted, several pilot sites which were involved in testing the approach which was developed through the Keep Warm project. And of course, the financing part was also one of those issues which was tackled. Unfortunately, I do not really know, I'm not really aware of all details, but as far as I know, private financing was not involved actually in any of those cases. And the reason actually behind is that at the moment, investment in such systems is not really attractive from various perspectives. One of those is also that the return period is very, very long because of the very intensive investments in these DH systems. And this is not very attractive for most of private customers. We didn't test other, let's say, financial models or instruments which could be, let's say, in place, or maybe a kind of, let's say, tested for this kind of investments. But I think that this is one of the barriers which needs to be resolved. So how to really attract funds, but we didn't really see that there is interest for private investment. So I think we should focus on other solutions regarding this. Maybe probably more or less oriented towards the municipalities or local societies. They need to somehow support this, or the state, let's say.
Thank you. Werner, would you like to contribute as well to this question?
Well, I think focused on Germany, most of the district heating projects are financed by municipalities. So it's most of the projects get their money from municipalities and not as private money. And I don't know if you could find a project, a district heating project from a municipality just financed by private investors. Because if you start from the scratch with no district heating in, let's say, in a small city or something like that, and you need money for development of plant and district heating network, I think this is too high, or a very high investment, and you will not find private money for this, because these are projects you have to focus on for the, let's say, if you start with district heating today, it will get back the money from the financing in the next 20 to 30 years. So find someone who's interested in bringing in some money to get it back during the next 30 years. I don't think it's really feasible.
All right, thank you, Werner. Now I have actually two questions from Jackie coming from the public. So what is the main reason why district heating grid in Strasbourg is currently not in the blue urban areas? What it should be in the next 10 years? What is the main heat generation technology in that area right now? And how you will promote it to a relevant number of house owners to change their heating system in the next year? And also, if I may link it, there's another question asking how about effort to lower temperature in the district heating system, why the high return in temperature, the best practice should be around 40 to 50.
So as to why we have these undeveloped areas in Strasbourg, is that they are slightly more peri-urban than urban. So just a little bit less dense, densely built. And so our economic models show about 30% reduction in heat density distribution compared to the existing historical models. So I think that has been the main challenge to developing heat networks in these areas. So it's still absolutely financially interesting for a public run heat network, but there hasn't been private initiative there yet. What is the current energy? So currently around 30% renewable energies, which is a lot mostly from heat recovery from our incinerator and from some industrial sites. And the rest is almost all gas. And how would we like to promote homeowners to change their heating systems? Well, the main point that I don't think we can get around is our cost needs to be at least competitive with gas for the moment. Natural gas being the most common heating system that's available, and it's currently the strongest competition. So we'll hopefully be at least competitive with gas, and also we have a lot of encouragement through our urban regulations. So it's going to be more and more difficult for new buildings and renovated buildings to install either individual heating systems or gas-based heating systems. So we're working on the carrot and the stick for that. The other question was, I believe, to do with the return heating temperature. So this isn't 100% sorted yet. I said 80 degrees, but it might perhaps be 70 degrees. And it could be different, but one of the main reasons is that we would like, ideally long-term, to have an interconnection between our networks, which means get a very, very large area and a compatibility between the different networks. So some which are supplying heat to very old buildings that won't be able to be retrofitted particularly well or easily. And also we have some issues with required heat returns to our industrial partners, who have also in our contracts we have some limitations on the minimum heat return temperature to these industrial partners.
Thank you, Jackie. I now have a question for all. In the case of integrating heat pumps, is there any concern about establishing the grid with greater draw in winter, and also our heat pumps integrated when network temperatures are very high, as we saw in Strasbourg? I don't know who wants to go first.
I think so large heat pumps, or let's say heat pumps, are of course one of the solutions which we need to really take serious for the future, also for the integration into district heating systems. In general, I think that with kind of strategic involvement of those technologies in district heating systems, I think this could really be a good way to progress. Also the development of heating through these district heating systems. In Slovenia, for example, and other countries which were involved in the KEEP Warm project, it was observed that this technology is really one of those which needs to be addressed in the future. And of course, there will be an impact on, let's say, the consumption of electricity and so on. But we see that the benefits are very high, and also there is a lot of potential which is untapped at the moment. So we think that this is one of the directions which will need to be properly considered in the future. So.
Heat pumps in Strasbourg, we haven't, well, we definitely encourage the use of heat pumps in individual houses that can't be connected to district heating network. But in terms of district heating, one of the real opportunities that we see is for increasing temperature from a low temperature heat recovery source to be compatible with the network. So for example, a small industrial site that would be able to supply waste heat at 30 or 40 degrees, and then we could use a heat pump to bring that temperature up for heat distribution through the network. And we are certainly hoping to encourage coupling heat pumps with renewable electricity sources, photovoltaics in particular.
Well, from my point of view, it's a question of development of large heat pumps, because if we have heat pumps with a couple of megawatts, first of all, we have to have a good technology for on one hand, and on the other hand, a heat pump, as also Jure said, needs a lot of electricity to get the heat for the district heating network. So there is, I think, or will be a development in this field, but at the moment, I would say it is a development and not, as also Jackie said, we have small heat pumps in the cities, but not the big ones which we are focusing on for district heating at the moment.
Thank you, everyone. Maybe one last question. And again, all the others that we didn't manage to answer because of time, you will still have the opportunity to get your answer on LinkedIn or via email. Emilia will tell you better than me how we're going to proceed. But so let me read the last question from Andrea Graf. On the point of competitiveness with gas, is there any reason why emission trading for whole heating fuel sources, assuming you've given revenues back to cities, and would not be in favor of existing district heating networks, or is there no regret for district heating?
Let's say, I would say so that for the customers, and I think for the benefits of the society, and let's say to really tap, I mean, the benefits of district heating systems. That's my personal view. Let's say that district heating has to be supported some way, because it can serve. So district heating is not just the way how to heat apartments, or let's say services and so on, or to deliver heat, but it's also the system which can somehow integrate. It's an integrator of let's say various sectors as well. And from this perspective, it has important benefit which should not be overlooked. Also from this taxation, let's say, perspective, or in other words, I think that it's not just the market which needs to decide, let's say, whether to connect to district heating system or not. But I think there shall be, let's say, clear decision on a policy level why to support and how to support district heating systems. I think because of the investment intensity, this needs to be resolved somehow. Let's say, so how to support the developments that and the transition of the district heating systems to a higher level. Yes, I would say that I don't really see the reason why district heating systems. So why future policies cannot be in favor of district heating networks? Perhaps at least in areas with higher, let's say, demand because of so many benefits they bring.
Thank you so much, Jure. Conscious of time, maybe now we should close the webinar, but Jackie, Werner, if there's still anything you would like to say, please do it now. No? Yeah.
No,
Okay.
just, well, emission taxing and carbon emissions are certainly a delicate subject in France with the CO2 tax. It's been frozen and has been cancelled, and hopefully I'm sure it will come back at some point and will definitely be an encouraging factor for the competitiveness of our district heating networks again.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for the very interesting discussion. As I said, it will keep going. The discussion will keep going on LinkedIn. So feel free, don't worry if your question has not been answered. Unfortunately, we didn't have much time, but it's great to see so much engagement around it. Thank you so much to all the speakers. It was great having you here today, and we'll be in touch again soon. Have a nice day.